Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. After last night's, obscenity with the Catterall robbery against Josh Taylor, I think I wasn't alone in feeling very deflated and disillusioned with the game. I've been watching boxing for decades, but something like that never fails to shock and outrage me when someone is so blatantly robbed and there's a clear injustice. And a man has his dreams essentially taken off him, even though he's really achieved them. And of course, you think, in one sense, it's good to still be outraged by that sort of thing because it means you haven't become glib or jaded. But you do think, why do I bother? Well, we bother because less than 24 hours later, we get a fight like the one between Gill and KARIM GUERFI of France. This was for the EBU featherweight title. I've always thought the EBU title is well worth having. Far, far, far better, far more worthy than all these worthless sort of alphabet soup trinkets, intercontinental and all that nonsense. And this was a terrific fight between an old, gnarled champion, very, very crafty, 34-year-old Frenchman GUERFI, and the young Gill, who had one defeat on his record, a stoppage. Was it 2 years ago? I can't remember the fighter's name, but Tinoco, I think the fighter was. Mexican fellow, if I remember. Anyway, Gill was stopped in 8 rounds. I think it was a retirement, and it was because he said afterwards, I had food poisoning and I went into the bout, and no excuse. If you're ill, you don't fight. If you do fight, you choose to fight, you can't then make excuses. But Gill, now 27, reaching what you would think would be his prime, goes in with the 34-year-old GUERFI. GUERFI has shown, first of all, he started his career as a flyweight because he actually lost on points one of those WBA interim nonsense titles. But he's a 3-time EBU champion. So the guy can fight. I mean, the thing was, he started as a flyweight. He won his first EBU title at bantamweight. I think he lost it and then won it back, if memory serves. And then he's beaten Stephen Jamoy twice. He came over here and beat Ryan Farag in 2016, so 6 years ago. But of his 5 defeats going into the Gill fight, 3 had been by stoppage. The most recent was a 1-round blowout by Lee McGregor only last March. So it's less than a year ago. But he came back, went to Spain, was presumably brought in as cannon fodder for the Spanish fighter Andoni Gargo. And he ended up, GUERFI, ended up winning a split decision. So to get knocked out in 1 round less than a year ago and then to go to Spain, again, at featherweight. The McGregor fight was at bantamweight. GUERFI then jumps up 2 weights to featherweight, goes to Spain, beats the guy in his backyard, split decision, so he must have won, beating him in his own backyard. That shows real mental strength. And he showed a lot of nous, a lot of mental strength in this fight with Gill. The first 4 rounds of the Gill fight, Gill was full of beans, very, very busy. Fast pace, throwing lots of offensive punches, box fighting, jabbing well, hitting the body. But at no point was GUERFI, did he look perturbed. He looked like someone who was saying, okay, you want to bring it, you bring it. Because we've got 36 minutes of this and I've got something waiting for you later down the line. And at no point was he hurt. So the first 4 rounds, you can give him to Gill. Maybe the first was, I don't know, maybe 3-1 or 4-0 to Gill. In the 5th round, for the first time, Gill hurts GUERFI. And interestingly, it's almost like a switch was flicked because GUERFI, having been hurt halfway through the round, then goes on the offensive, throws far more punches, is on the front foot more, shows a good control of his aggression. And suddenly Gill's got something coming back at him and he's like, okay. Now the 6th round, definitely GUERFI's round. He started to put the heat on Gill, almost like, okay, you've had your little fun, now get a load of this. And it was a very good round for GUERFI, especially the last minute where Gill, he launched a good attack. Gill was pushed on the back foot and was getting hit cleanly. And by the way, Gouffret, even though he started his career at flyweight and recently fought at bantamweight, he didn't look that much smaller than Gill, who's a natural feather. Gouffret looked, you know, like he'd filled out. At 34, perhaps that was his natural weight, featherweight. In the 7th round, things got really bad for Gill. Basic thing that you learn in boxing, one of the basic combinations is if you miss with the right hand, you come back with a left hook. And that's exactly what Gouffret did. Was it 2 minutes into the round roughly? And he misses with the right hand, lands a slap bang left hook on Gill's jaw. Over goes Gill. So within the space of 2 rounds, suddenly Gill is in serious trouble. His legs don't look great. He knows where he is. His eyes are clear, but his legs don't look great. He goes in. Gouffret pushes him to the ropes and then basically rails him on the ropes. In the 8th round, Gill's still not recovered, and he spends most of that round on the ropes in his corner, but he's fighting very well off the ropes, defensively very, very good, trying to draw Gouffret in. At one point, he lands a big straight right, like, or was it a right cross? It was a right cross, I think. And now that was a warning signal to Gouffret. But Gouffret, no problem, wasn't that badly hurt. He wasn't really hurt at all, but it was a very good punch. But he definitely dominates that 8th round. And he hurts Gill on a couple of occasions. Commentary-wise, Andy Lee was the commentator, and he was saying, well, I think, you know, the corner have to consider maybe pulling out Gill. He's too brave for his own good, and my God, Gill was brave. In the 9th round, more of the same. Total domination by Gouffret until the final 5 seconds of the round, where Gill times Gouffret coming in, lands again a right cross, bang on the jaw, and that's all she wrote. Over goes Gouffret, flat on his back. The referee stops the fight immediately, doesn't even bother counting. And Jordan Gill is the new EBU featherweight champion. And interestingly, when he was trying to celebrate, he was falling over. His legs were that gone. He fell into the ropes. You know, it was really a clinic in fighting off the ropes. Gill showed an immense amount of heart and a lot of skill and a lot of maturity in the way he fought off the ropes, because Gouffret was this very, very crafty opponent. You know, 3-time EBU champ, very, very good European level fighter, and should have won this fight. This fight reminded me of one in the 90s, which, I don't know, older people may have seen, where John David Jackson, who was a very good light middleweight and middleweight champ, I think, a belt holder. He fought a guy called Jorge Castro of Argentina and dominated him for 9 rounds. I mean, beat the living tar out of him, and then Castro managed to land a counter right and knocked him flat out. It was like one of the biggest comebacks ever. Well, this rivals it, because Gill was getting his arse handed to him, and he came back with that big right cross, and now he's the EBU featherweight champ. But he's concussed himself. He was concussed. I imagine they both went to hospital to be checked out, and they should have done. Gill also had a very, very big, like a protruding hematoma sticking out of his right eye, I think it was. That was from a clash of heads. And also, in round 8, Gill suffered a really weird injury, or it was like the equivalent of a knockdown, because they wrestled to the floor, and Gill's head was in a headlock, and he landed on the top of his head. And for a few seconds, he was just flat out looking up at the lights, kind of like Fury against Wilder in the first fight, just looking up at the lights, staring. But he managed to get up, but that probably contributed to his concussion. But yeah, he's the new champ. It was a great fight, really, really interesting fight. Styles blended well. If you didn't watch it, go on DAZN. You should subscribe to DAZN, because this was a really good card tonight, far superior to yesterday's on Sky. But yeah, go and watch this fight. It's a very, very good fight. What did you think if you saw it? Leave your comments below. As always, thank you for your time. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe to the channel. Please subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate that. Hit the like button as well. I'd really appreciate that too. Take care of yourselves, and of course, we'll speak again soon. Take care. Bye-bye for now.